At the time, I wasn't doing anything, and I had 5 children under 8, so I was looking for something that was, I could be at home, and yet I didn't have to be at a certain place at a certain time. So I just thought that would suit me down to the ground. Like, I come from a farming background. We have cattle and sheep, so March time is lambing time with us, which is quite busy. So one of the concerns I had about doing the census was to be able to have enough time to get away to do it. And so I spoke to my husband, and we said we would be able to go at any times that when he was there I could go. So we decided to go ahead and do it. So it worked out quite well. I didn't know what to expect, actually. I knew I'd have to cover 400 houses, and I suppose we were told that after when we were picked to do the census. Up to that, I didn't know. I didn't know where would you end up being. I was hoping you'd be nearby home, that I could be able to get in and out quick. Other than that, I didn't really know what to expect, just from what I had heard on the television about the census being on and getting to know people, and so that's why I decided to go for it. It was hard work. It was. It got to this. When you gave them all out, you went a big sigh of relief, and then you had a little bit of a break, and then the race to get them back in. And but it was good. Really enjoyed it. I got to know everybody, and everybody knows me. Even still, people would meet me, and it's Anne-Marie, like as if I'm their best friend, and I only called to their house twice. So I enjoyed meeting the people, like calling to older people, finding houses that I didn't know existed in my area, because it happened that I got an area close by, and people that I wouldn't have known were ever there, and just meeting everybody. And I just thought it was a great way of getting to know where I live and what people do, and I didn't have to know everything about them or anything, but just to know them, and they thought they all know me now. Looking back on the census in 2006, it was a great experience. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I look forward to even trying to do the next census in 2011, and the people that I got to know, the supervisor I got to know, plus the people in my area, made it all worthwhile. The downside was the weather, because some days just the rain, but you felt like you had to get out so many and get so many back. The hardest part was putting it all together at the end. That was the hardest part. My supervisor was Karen, and we did our initial training together as a group, and then after that Karen would call to the house once a week, and we'd put everything together, or if I had any problems she'd go through it with me, and then we would meet as a group then once a week as well. So Karen became a good friend of mine afterwards, and she was brilliant. And then you got to know the other people as well, doing the other areas. So the whole backup was actually quite good. You know, if I had a problem with anybody, which I did at one time, Karen just stood in, and everything was great. Be good at parking your car, because you've got small gates and you've got laneways, and I think it needs to be taken into consideration. You're going to be out in all weather, so you do need to have good coats, and your paperwork can get wet. So at the end, you have to sort all the forms into the different areas, and you have to stack them in order. So I would say, if you're doing it, stack them as you go when you collect an area, because if you leave it to the end and they're all over the place, it can be a nightmare. So that would be the main thing, stack as you go, as you do an area. I'd say the main thing before you start it all is to spend the time driving around every road that's on that map and knowing where they are, because at the end, when you're giving them out, you'll miss them if you don't. So the route is so, so important. And that was said at the time and probably didn't, because when you're finished you realise, yes, the route was so important. If I was to do it again, I'd concentrate on the route at the very start a little bit longer than probably what I did the first time round, and I'd be more organised at the very end. I had some people who didn't want, they took the form and never said that they'd have a problem, and then when I called back they wouldn't have it ready, or I got the impression they didn't want me to collect it. So, I mean, you give them the envelopes. But then I had one particular man who said to me that he would have it ready at 5 o'clock on Saturday when I called back. This was after my third visit. So when I called on Saturday at 5 o'clock, he still didn't have it ready. So I called back on Sunday. I said I'd be there on Sunday. So eventually I got it from him. But persistence sometimes, but you'll know those people from the start when you go to collect. You might know them giving them out, but you certainly know them by the time you call back to collect them.